Thanks so much for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure to be with you. Matt, thank you for those kind words. The love, the support, the care that my family and I have received from what I call Jewish National Family has been really incredible over the last couple of weeks. So I thank all of you who have reached out and have touched us and have been so kind and have really defined community. And community is what it's about, Kehillah, the Jewish word, the Hebrew word for community. That's what our people are based on. My history and my story with Alexander Muss goes back to a time when it was not known as Alexander Muss. 38 years ago, it was simply the high school in Israel, a program spawned out of the Miami-Dade Jewish Federation to fight assimilation. Think about that. Nearly 50 years ago, 5 decades ago, Jewish leaders in Miami were concerned about assimilation long before anyone had heard the initials BDS or SJP, long before our kids were getting beaten up on college campuses for wearing a Magen David. This program today now boasts over 33,000 alumni. I was one of the early ones. I came home from a post-confirmation class and I said to my mother of blessed memory, "Mom, I'm going to Israel." And she looked at me, she said, "What? Don't you think you should ask?" And I said, "Okay, Mom, can I go to Israel?" She said, "Sure, when are you leaving?" I said, 2 months, and it's this amazing program, and I'm gonna live in these dorms in Hod HaSharon, and they told me to go with high hopes and low expectations, and I'm gonna learn 4,000 years of Jewish history in 2 months. To say that it changed my life is an understatement. My experience in Hod HaSharon as an early student at Alexander Muss, now known as Alexander Muss, or as I like to call it, JNF's Muss High School in Israel, shaped me. It made me a better citizen. It made me a better person. It made me a better Jew. It made me a better student. I developed my ability to think critically. I developed my ability to speak with people, to express my thoughts. I learned not only the history of our people, but I learned the history of Christendom. I learned the history of Islam. When I was in my 20s and traveling in Europe with friends, I would walk into a church and I would be the one explaining the history of the church. And they would look up and they would say, "Why is the one Jewish kid here telling us our history?" I said, "Because I went on this amazing program when I was 17 and I actually learned." And that's what we call Muss magic. And what is this Muss magic? And I'm sure you guys have heard the phrase. I believe Muss magic is based on 3 critical elements. Number 1, we use the land of Israel as our classroom. It's an immersive, scholastic approach. Number 2, we teach in a chronological method. Most all of you have been to Israel and you've traveled in Israel based on geography. We don't travel, we don't teach based on geography. We start with the beginning of time. We start using Tanakh as a history book, not as a religious guide, as a history book to teach history where it happened. As we say on the program, you need to stand in the sandals of the people at that time. You need to understand their worldview. And the last part is, we have the most special, the most caring, and the most committed instructors for our Israel education program. They literally devote themselves and their lives. They have long days where they leave home at 5 in the morning and they don't return to their families until midnight, and they do it again. They do it because they have a love for the Jewish people. They have a love for the students that you're seeing on your screen. They have a love to share the knowledge and the passion of our history, to inculcate Jewish values, to inculcate Zionistic thoughts, and to create a true love for Israel. So we're able to create this love for Israel, and we know it works because we know that our graduates are more likely to be engaged in Jewish life, are more likely to be active in synagogues, in federations, in Jewish National Fund, in APAC, are more likely to stand up on their college campuses to BDS and SJP, are more likely to have a Jewish home, are more likely to light Shabbat candles, are more likely to raise their kids Jewish, are more likely to donate to charities and to Jewish charities. What we do at Alexander Muss works, and it works really well. I like to say that we are the best offense to make sure that we have a Jewish future, that our magical teaching structure transforms the life of youths, and we create Jewish continuity for tomorrow and the Jewish leaders of tomorrow. over 33,000 alumni. I'm not alone in what I just told you. And the thing is, you can pick up any of our alumni off the street, and you're basically going to hear the same thing that I said. If you look behind me in the virtual background, that was at the groundbreaking, or at post our groundbreaking, but where we broke ground, where we're going to build our massive JNF campus in Be'er Sheva that will house a second campus for Alexander Muss that will help us grow to 5,000 students a year. I select this background tonight because even amidst everything that's going on in the world with COVID, and trust me, as the president of the school, COVID is very painful. Our school has not escaped the virus. Even as we deal with this today, instead of curling up in a fetal position like so many other institutions, we are working hard, we're building, we're looking forward to the future, and we're thinking about what we're going to do in Be'er Sheva. It truly is a special program. It's an honor to be here tonight. Truthfully, I'm continuing the legacy taught by my parents, especially my mother. I thank you for your love and support. I'm going to turn it over now to Leor Sinai, our co-chief executive officer. You might have met him before. He's a slightly dynamic guy, and he'll share some better insight with you. Thanks for giving me a couple minutes tonight, guys.
Shalom, everybody from Tel Aviv. I hope you can hear me well. If you need me to bring the mic closer to my mouth, just make a sign or something else or another. Ron, you rightfully said, it's all about role modeling. Our parents are our teachers, and our traditions teaches us, Veshinantan levanecha v'dibarta bam. I mean, you should teach your children and role model to them. And that's really where education begins. It begins in the home. And so when I dedicate my talk this evening, my morning, to your mother, Florence Warner of blessed memory, who was a role model for so many of us, and for all of us who did have the opportunity to know your mother and still know your father, God bless him, may he live to 120. They are giants, mountain movers. The rabbis speak of people who are mountain movers, who make the world a better place. And we're thankful for all that your family has done and continues to do on behalf of Am Yisrael, and as a result, the world at large. So good morning, everybody from Tel Aviv, Israel. It's 3:15 in the morning here. And there is no other place I would rather be than with all of you here on this Zoom chat. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to join us here, to our friends, to our lay leaders, to our board members, to our colleagues from the Samis Foundation out in Seattle, Ariel Lapson, and to lay leadership around the United States. Thank God for technology and for us to be able to connect. I want to begin my few minutes that I've been allotted with a quick little story. There's a boy named Moishele, and Moishele is around 10 or so years old. And one day Moishele goes to his mother and he says, Ima, where are we from? And Ima scratches her head and she says, okay, well, we're from, your grandmother Bubby is from Ukraine, and your grandfather is from Poland, and their ancestry is from Russia, and before that they came from another country, and before that it was from Spain. And Moishele is thinking, he's like, wow, this is very interesting. He goes over to his father, he says, Abba, where are we from? And Abba scratches his head and he says, well, millions of years ago, there were monkeys. And now Moishele doesn't understand monkeys, and now he goes into this whole thing of evolution. So Moishele goes to his mother, he says, Ima, I asked you where we're from, and you told me we're from Russia and Poland and Eastern Europe. And I went to Abba, and Abba says to me, monkeys. So Moishele's mother says, oh no, let me explain something to you, Moishele. Ima explained to you where Ima is from. Abba explained to you where Abba is from. The reason why I share that story with you, first of all, I think it's a funny story, it's a cute story, but I also think that in a way it also reflects the deep curiosity, the thirst that our children have to want to know who they are and where they come from. in today's world, I believe we take these things for granted. This fast-paced material world where everyone is so focused on material gain and have forgotten what is truly so important in our lives, because it's about legacy. It's about the next generation. Because God willing, may we all be healthy and live a very long life. At some point, we're all going to be going back to where we came from. And so what did we actually leave behind? My hope is that each and every one of us can be comfortable enough to know that what we've left behind is a generation that is knowledgeable, that is passionate, and that is excited about being a member of the Jewish people and being a human being at large, because that's what our job here in this world is to do. Of course, we want to teach our children the values, the history, the tradition of our people, and as a result of which we want to create mensches, human beings. The rabbis teach us where there are no people in your surroundings, try to be a human being. And if you turn on the news these days, certainly in this part of the world, as we're viewing what is happening in the US, some of us might be scratching our heads and saying, where are all the human beings? Where are all the mensches? Where are all those values of loving your neighbor as yourself? And these are part of the values that we must teach our children in order to make the world a better place than it is or was when we received it from our parents. That's our job. That's the forest. That's the big picture. Now, we're going to dive into the trees and into the details, but always, never, ever lose the forest for the trees. Keep your eye on the ball is what our message is to our faculty, to our youth. What you are a part of is extraordinary. And so the story I started off with about Moshe, inquiring about his history, is true about each and every one of us. At some point in our lives, we ask ourselves, what am I? And what am I doing here? A gentleman by the name of Gordon Zacks of blessed memory, who was a giant in the Jewish world as well, and in the world at large. His mother was Florence Melton of the Melton Center. And I, thankfully, had an opportunity to work with Gordon Zacks. He would always say, ask yourselves these two questions. Who am I? And what am I doing here? Now, our children, our youth, are more sophisticated than you think. If you treat them like kids, they're going to react like kids. If you treat them as adults, they will react in kind. And we know that because that's what happens on campus here in Israel at the Alexander Muss High School in Israel. We treat our youth as adults. When they go home after spending this long-term experience in Israel, the notes that we get from their parents are essentially what I just said. I sent you a child and you brought me back. You sent me back an adult. My kid sits around the dinner table not waiting to jump up and run out with their friends. But my kid is sticking around the dinner table wanting to have conversation, wanting to share their opinion about things in the world today. I am indebted as a parent. I am indebted to you, Alexander Muss High School in Israel, for what you have done for my child. In a mere matter of 2 or 4 months, it is a transformative experience. And I can tell you this not only because I'm a good salesman, but I can tell you this because these are the facts. This program has been around since 1972. For anyone who got that question wrong, by the way, woe to you. This program has been around since 1972 for 48 years, 33,000 alumni. So we have the longitudinal evidence, the metrics to measure the impact of our program. So we know for a fact that this program is transformative. That not only do we prepare our youth for life on college campuses today, but we prepare our youth for life after college. And boy, don't we know that society today really needs leadership. We really need to prepare our youth for all that's going to be coming their way. And for those who don't know what's happening on university campuses, do some research, do some reading. We're sending our youth into a battle zone. We're sending our youth into a place where they are expected to be advocates for Israel, to stand for Israel, to argue for Israel's sake. How in the world, how dare we send our youth to campuses to stand for Israel, to advocate for Israel when they don't even get a proper education about Israel? They don't even know the Aleph Bet, let alone their own history. So how can we then expect them to go and stand on the front line, our front line, while we cozy up in our own living rooms and flick the remote control to the next channel? They're the ones who are standing on the front line. They are the ones who are expected to stand for Israel, to advocate for Israel, to be the future leadership of U.S. Jewry, to ensure this everlasting pact, this partnership between these two amazing countries of the United States of America and the State of Israel. So this is what happens here at AMHSI, here in Israel. Our youth get the education. They most certainly get their academic requirements taken care of, but we're not here to talk about that right now. This is not a recruitment event. We are an accredited institution by the Middle States Association of High Schools and Colleges in the US. The University of Miami provides our students with college credits because they view our program as a collegiate level program. But that is a means to the end. That is a means to get our youth here so that they can have this transformative experience. It's wonderful to go to Israel for a week or 10 days. But that cannot be transformative. You can't buy knowledge. You can't buy love. You can't buy a passion for a country. This is not something you purchase on Amazon. This is something you can only experience over time, like love. We've all loved in our lives. You can't buy that. You can't go on Amazon or Google and purchase, meaning or purpose or love in life. These are things that are only acquired over time. And that's what happens on our program over time. 33,000 alumni later, and we can tell you for a fact that our alumni are leaders today, not only in the Jewish world, but in the larger world, in business, in social service, in technology, in government. We have alumni in the UN. They're all over the place, which is amazing. Now imagine if we were able to double our numbers. Imagine if we were able to triple the number of students whose lives we impact. That is our goal and objective. Because we are a proven result, because our results are proven, because we know the value of this pearl of a program, and because we know that the world needs us. If the world were a perfect place, then we'd say, Dayenu, enough. Let's fold up the business, and there's no need for us. But to the contrary, there's a tremendous need for a program like ours because there is nothing else like it out there. In the Ides of March, I know it sounds cliche, but literally the Ides of this past March, it was the 15th of March to the date that the high school in Israel, the Alexander Muss High School in Israel, did something it never had to do in its entire history. And that was send students home. It was one of the most intense periods I can tell you of my life. I think it was a good 4 or 5 days of no sleep, certainly of the entire faculty and my colleagues in the country, on campus, as well as our colleagues in the US, who were handling the flight, the charter flight, packing our students, getting them ready to go home. We were so focused on ensuring the safety and security of our students that for a moment, we almost forgot to check in on their well-being. Because we were so focused on their safety and security and getting them back to their parents, to their homes in the United States and in London. We had around 80 students from London at the time. That we almost forgot to say, hey, how are you? How are you doing to our students? And I have to tell you, And that was just for a split moment, because when we did, we saw that our kids were devastated. These students came to us for a 4-month program, for a full semester that didn't last more than 3 weeks. And even after 3 weeks, they were devastated. They were crying. They did not want to leave. They did not want to end their journey short. The impact that was had in a mere 3 weeks, and you all know how magical this place is. To come to Israel is like a dolphin coming to the surface for air, for oxygen. You know you feel differently when you land on the tarmac here at Ben Gurion Airport. You know you breathe differently when you land in Israel. Don't tell me I'm wrong. It's just something else. And so for our youth, think about a 15, 16, 17-year-old who all he or she knows is this material world that surrounds them, who may live in a bubble in their community, where they haven't left their homes for an extended amount of time. All of a sudden, they're given this opportunity to discover themselves, to realize that those challenges they faced in life that they never imagined they could overcome, they could, and they did. And no matter what challenge comes their way in their lifetime, as a result of an experience like this, they will have the tools and the experience to overcome any challenge that comes their way. And so on that fateful day, our parent organization, Jewish National Fund, stepped up, got us a flight. It was the most intense experience we all had. We got our students back home, and within 24 hours, we flipped our entire educational program to an online learning service. Many of you are still benefiting from that as you're joining us on our adult learning sessions here coming from our educators in Israel. So that all of our students, within 24 hours, continue to receive their general studies needs, continue to receive an Israel experience to the best of our capacity, given the circumstances, as we gloat and like to say that Israel is the classroom. And so how can you possibly deliver a compelling Israel experience when you're not in Israel? That was the number one concern on our minds. But let me tell you something. And for those of you who are with us on this call, and I can tell you for the thousands of adults and lay leaders and parents of alumni and older alumni that have joined our adult learning sessions, somehow, as Ron mentioned, our educators, somehow these teachers figured out a way. And let me take it a step further. In that process of discovering the way to deliver, to literally enter the screen as I am attempting to do right now, to touch you from so far away, our teachers figured it out. But not only did they discover a way to deliver a compelling learning educational program through online services, many of our teachers have shared with me they actually rediscovered their own Zionism. Because teaching in Israel is relatively easy to a certain extent if you're an educator, because Israel sells itself. You travel the country and you're in awe in every place. And you see these photos here on this video, this amazing video that's been created. I believe it's Jack who created it, our co-chair of our marketing committee. Every spot you go to in this country is a place of awe, of wondrous imagination, of history. Every step you take digs deep into the ground, 2,000 years into the ground, entrenched in history. And through this process, our teachers rediscovered their own Zionism because they were challenged and they succeeded. And the feedback we've received to this date has been phenomenal. So one thing that has come out of this, and we like to say that every challenge there is an opportunity. One thing that's come out of this is the opportunity to realize that no matter what stands in our way, corona or no corona, we're going to do whatever we have to do to deliver Israel to all of you, to all of our students, directly from your home. And with that, I'm going to stop speaking for a moment, and we're going to move on to the agenda, on this agenda, because I'll have a couple of minutes after this, and we're going to now view one of these educational lessons shared to us as part of our Muss on the Move learning series. And the teacher you're going to see here is Benji Berman, who's going to be talking about Tel Gezer. So enjoy the 2 or 3 minute video.
And what I've seen, take a look behind me. This is the original clay brick gate that was built by the ancient Canaanites. He would have seen this amazing gate. I mean, the top's missing, but you can see the 2 walls, and it would have arched over the top of the gate. But what's really, really amazing about this gate is that you would have seen inside of it, you can see there are 4 chambers. Like, do you want to know, see what the chambers were for? What were the chambers for? Come, I'll show you. I'm going to break the rules a bit. Don't show anyone. Basically, it was about defense. Imagine an army coming to try and attack the place. And what would they have done? They would have hidden their soldiers inside the chambers. You want to attack? You want to attack? It would have basically, this massive structure was a defensive place. And if Abraham would have come here, he would have thought to himself, wow, this place is amazing. They know how to defend themselves. They know how to build a city. And he would have been really, really impressed.
I'm impressed. I hope you're impressed too. This is just a little taste. This is just a 2-3 minute taste of what our teachers do for an hour long. In fact, over the summer, as I had mentioned prior to this video, one of the opportunities that we discovered was that not only do we provide or have the opportunity to provide this education to our students, but we've expanded our services to include communities, virtual tours, congregational schools, day schools, temples, JCCs. In the last month of July, we have served over 1,500 individuals in a variety of programs, 5-day tours, an hour each day throughout the country, graffiti tours to one of our college campus programs, Huskies for Israel, or whatever they're called. So we've been taking what we do for our students, and we have been sharing it with constituencies and communities across the United States. You too can invite our teachers to share Israel with your communities as well. The Jewish people right now, and I would actually add the world at large, is at a crossroads. We're at an intersection. I don't know if you feel it. I feel it. Now, I can't tell the future. I don't think anyone on this call can either. So I don't know which way we're going to go yet. And when I say right or left, I don't mean politically. But I do mean that there's a direction that needs to be taken. My hope is that it's down the middle. The Rambam, the Maimonides, a famous rabbi, philosopher, and physicist, would talk about the golden path in his philosophical book, The Guide to the Perplexed. The best way to go is down the center. It's easy to be right or left. You just choose. Oh, I'm right on everything. I'm right. I'm left. And you don't have to debate. You don't have to challenge yourself. You don't have to think about or consider what your views might or be. Right? You say, I'm this or that. The golden path, the middle path. We're finding ourselves at a situation at a time where the world, or let's say the Western world, has been so successful in financial growth and material gain and wealth that we, to a certain extent, and I don't speak about everyone, I'm speaking generally here, we've kind of forgotten what brought us to here, this point. We've kind of forgotten who we are and where we've come from. And the rabbis always teach us, know from where you've come, and you should know from where you're going. And this is a quote that I live by. No matter Corona, no matter anything that's happening in the world today, because as the book of Ecclesiastes, Kohelet teaches us, there is nothing new under the sun. What you think is new to us, what some of our youth might think about Corona, happened 50 years ago, 100 years ago. We know about the Spanish flu. We know about other flus. We know about, polio, which was cured. I mean, all these different diseases. So it might seem like the end of the world, but it's not. Ein chadash tachat hashamesh. There is nothing new under the sun. So I'm not concerned about Corona or any of these things. Sure, I am. Of course, we need to be careful, and I pray you all are healthy and your families are as well. But these are choices we make. We take care of ourselves. We commit to hygiene. Wearing a mask will be fine. I'm more concerned about the future. Education is the greatest cause of our time. Education is the greatest cause of our time. And if we're surprised about our youth not being excited about their heritage or not loving Israel, we have no one to blame but ourselves. It's not fair on them. They were born into this world not knowing anything. So how can we expect them to know something about a subject or topic that we've never shared with them? That's on us. It's our job to teach them. It's our job to role model. And it's our job to ensure that our next generation is prepared to carry that mantle of continuity. I hope that you all consider joining us as this renaissance has been launched. Our youth are calling for more connectivity and for more engagement, and we're going to be there to welcome them. And with that, I want to introduce our next speaker and lay leader and my friend, Jack Roldan, who is on our National Board of Directors and also serves as co-chair of our National Marketing Committee. Jack Roldan is the owner and founder of C Deep Consulting, a customer experience and digital agency. Jack was born in Denver, but raised in Southern California before returning to Colorado. He is a champion of higher education, personal development, and philanthropic endeavors, positively impacting individuals and communities. I really like him. From leading our young professional on a JNF future mission to engaging the local Denver Jewish community as an active Mountain States board member, Jack has the passion for philanthropy, for peoplehood, and for Israel, and is a member of JNF's President's Society, and as I mentioned before, Alexander Muss High School for Israel Board of Directors. Jack, the floor is all yours.
Hey, Leor, thank you so much. I really can't express just how proud I am to be here, to be a part of this organization, the larger family of Jewish National Fund, and this amazing organization called Alexander Muss High School in Israel. I had an opportunity when I turned 40, which wasn't too long ago, to sit in a classroom with Benji, to see, to feel, and experience that Muss magic that we've heard about. And I've got to tell you, I felt cheated. I wish that I had that opportunity to attend a session like this, to learn things that I discovered as an undergraduate in high school. It's so important for us to really think about what AMHSI not only means for that student experience, but really what it means for the Jewish community as a whole. Now, you've heard from Ron, you've heard from Leor, you're hearing a little bit from me about how amazing this organization and institution is. But let's hear it from our students. Let's hear it from our parents. And then let's dive a little bit deeper. I know Leor talked to you about that experience, that 24 hours of convergence to bring all these things together to get our students home, taking things beyond just education and looking at our well-being. We'll explore that a little bit deeper. So we'll take a look at another video here because I think this really speaks to what AMHSI is all about.
Well, I remember you said that's the moment that you felt like, wow, it's bigger than me. It's bigger than my family. I'm part of a chain. Like, I get it. In fact, you even said to me, now I really will marry a Jewish girl. So I was like, yay!
I came back empowered with my Judaism and really experiencing my Judaism for myself in ways that I didn't know I could.
He was so excited to live in Israel and not just be a tourist there, but actually experience it for a couple of months, especially in high school when most kids don't have a study abroad experience. It was very exciting. I mean, you're just not going to get that experience at home. We were calling it the Muss magic, and it really felt that way. And that was really remarkable as a parent to see that transformation.
I fell to the ground and I cried.
That was Tracy Gandea's reaction when she found out her son Alex was coming back home from his semester in Israel as quarantine orders were put into effect.
This is a historic event for El Al because we had 10 flights in 24 hours.
It was actually my birthday. And that evening, we opened up an email from Alexander Muss and the JNF. And I get teary-eyed when I tell the story. And when they told us that they took out money from an endowment and that they had chartered a plane to bring our kids home, and not just any plane, they chartered El Al, the safest airline.
We were on the phone with El Al, with the travel agency, and we just said, how much is a plane?
With a skeletal staff, El Al had to carry out an unprecedented number of long-distance rescue flights, with the highest number to New York's JFK airport.
We're doing something very special for the country and for El Al, for us, and for all the families that isolated at home and they were waiting for their kids to join them.
In less than 48 hours, they brought back over 2,000 passengers, most of them teenagers and students who were spending a semester abroad.
Better than Amazon Prime. We, less than 24 hours, we had the plane, the crew, the food, and the kids, everything delivered.
While this is a difficult time for El Al, the staff described their rescue flights as both a personal and national mission.
I feel blessed that I was chosen to do this flight. I don't take it for granted. I feel that I work in a place that cherish Israel and feels that we have the obligation.
Everybody understands when they really needs us to be there, we're gonna be there. Doesn't matter where, doesn't matter what time, doesn't matter the coronavirus or something else, El Al is there for you.
I'm JNF's biggest fan. I am Alexander Muss's biggest fan. I, for the future, will only fly El Al to and from Israel. That is no question.
Wow. Just an incredible story. I don't know if that gave you guys the tingles, but I'll admit, when Ron first sent this video out some weeks ago, or several months ago now, that's just how warped I am in COVID time. It really brought tears to my eyes, and I'm not embarrassed to say that because I was so excited to see our students making it home and to also really showcase what AMHSI is all about. And as Russell had mentioned, it was like Amazon Prime. And as you know, Amazon Prime is not free, and neither is chartering a plane. Oh, let's see here. Sorry, guys, just had to stop on this screen share. Okay, so as you guys can imagine, chartering a plane is not very inexpensive, and looking at really what AMHSI has had to endure from conducting an evacuation from Israel to get our students home, to really losing revenue out there because we've not been able to host our sessions. As you can see here, this has been the cost of the pandemic. $2.6 million lost in revenue during this time. We already talked about the $500,000 to charter and get our students home. We've issued about $1.2 million in refunds. We can see at the bottom here what the average is for each student enrollment based on sessions. So as you can see now more than ever, we truly need your support, not just in really showcasing this transformative program, as you've heard from all of us, parents, teachers, students, but really it's about coming together now to help showcase that Muss magic for the years to come, to keep us in a place where we can continue to offer the best study abroad program in Israel. So I'm asking for each of you today, whether you're a current supporter of Jewish National Fund, which we very much appreciate your donations, your time, and your gifts, or a supporter of AMHSI directly, like myself, Ron, and others here, but I'm asking you to make a contribution so that we can reach our goals. We have a multi-million-dollar campaign, an emergency campaign that we're raising these funds for today to cover these losses, to really build these memories because it is such an impact. And I'll tell you just how impactful this program really is. So on your screen here, this is a final essay from a student who actually was able to join us today on this session, Max Wolk, who in 2000 wrote this multi-page essay. But it's really about the essence of his essay, his conclusion, that I think is really important for us to see. So I'm going to go ahead and read this here to you. This trip has taught me more than anything else in life. Nothing can match it. I even enjoyed writing this essay. I had fun learning about the Jewish dedication and intelligence, the Jewish people's struggles and successes, and the reason and who is always threatening Israel. But most of all, I did gain new eyes. These will help me to see the world differently and see myself differently as well. The friends I have made, I could never see again in life, and we would still remember each other. When others say Israel is the best experience in their life, it is an understatement. Never again will something affect me the way this has, and I hope nothing will again. Just powerful for us to be able to transform an individual's life, to help sustain Judaism and our culture and history for thousands of years today. So I hope you will consider a gift or an additional gift if you're already making a contribution. Again, thank you. So at this time, I will open it up to Matt for questions and answers, which you can submit via the chat.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Leor. Max, thank you for writing that letter in 2000, so 20 years ago. Remarkable. So if you have any questions, please chat them here. You can unmute as well if you have any questions. Raise your hand and we can unmute you. But just like Jack said, it takes resources to make this happen and to continue to expand and to get more students there. So however you can support Alexander Muss High School in Israel by clicking on the link, by calling us, by filling it, you can't see it, we have pledge cards, just contact us and let us know. So I've got some questions here that I know people wanted to ask. So Goldie is asking a question, what about the gap year program? Rabbi Leor, do you care to share, or Ron, and what is a gap year for those of us that don't know?
Absolutely. So I'll just say a few words about it, and we have a flyer that we can share with everyone as well. We talked about opportunities during challenges. So for several years now, we've been planning and talking about a gap year experience, knowing that we have the logistical framework, the educational know-how, the teachers in place, as well as over 1,000 alumni a year who are graduating from their high schools, who have all come to us and said, hey, if you guys had a gap program, I would come. And so for many years, we've toyed with the idea, and we always thought, this is who we are, this is our bread and butter. And when the JNF program for the new project, the JNF Global Educational and Technology Institute in Be'er Sheva came around, then we realized, okay, this is the opportunity that's presented itself. AMHSI is to be an anchor of this new campus and institute based in Be'er Sheva, and you see that photo in Ron Werner's virtual background. And one of the many educational services we planned to provide was going to be a gap year program. So we figured we had 4 or 5 years to develop. Well, you know what they say in Yiddish, Mensch tracht and Gott lacht. Man makes plans and God laughs. So with that, God made a plan, sent us this Corona thing, however you want to look at it, it is what it is. And with that challenge, we realized, we're hearing about many universities stateside that are beginning their fall semester virtually. Why don't we take this opportunity to welcome many students who might rather come to Israel for a semester, doing some research and speaking to our colleagues at MASA. MASA is the umbrella organization for many of these gap semester and gap year programs. They were talking to us about 120% increase in inquiries and registration, Young Judea, Aardvark, all these various year abroad programs. And so we thought to ourselves, we have something unique to offer. Why not jump on this opportunity and figure and see what we can? So within literally 3 weeks, our teachers put together a phenomenal program. We're calling it Frontier Israel. For many of us who might remember, and I'm sure many of you, back in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, when you'd come to Israel, many people would volunteer on a kibbutz. Many people had that romantic, pioneering experience with Israel, you know, meeting people from all over the world. Everybody's getting involved in the development of this new, young nation state. Well, whatever happened to that experience? Because all of our youth who are coming on all these programs, and by the way, they're coming for 10 days, 2 weeks, it's these like quick in and out experiences, they're not getting even close to the kind of experience you all had when you came to Israel for an extended period of time to volunteer, to support. And so what we did, we said, let's bring that Zionist pioneering experience back. And thankfully, as being a part of JNF, under the JNF umbrella, we have access to all the JNF's programs and projects through all JNF's affiliates. And what JNF does, if you didn't know, of course you do, is developing the entirety of the state of Israel. Some might call it the periphery. I don't like that terminology, which is why I thought, let's call it frontier, because it really is the frontier. JNF is investing in the frontier of Israel. If you move away from the triangle zone of Haifa, Tel Aviv, Yerushalayim, we're talking about the north, the Galilee. We're talking about the south, the entirety of the Negev desert, Be'er Sheva, the Arava, and further down south from there. This is JNF's thumbprint, right? It's the frontier. So we want to bring back that pioneering Zionist romantic experience that we had growing up in the 70s and the 80s when you came to Israel. And that's the sort of character and nature of this gap semester program, where our students are going to spend months at a time in the north, working the land, volunteering, teaching English, engaging with the people on the ground, and then as well as in the south. So it's a 4-month program we've put together as a pilot. We're going to see how it goes. We're very, very confident that it's going to be a phenomenal program. It's going to be like no other gap experience, because we have the opportunity, as a result of our educational experience and history, coupled with JNF's access to the entire country and all that it does, to launch an amazing program. We have over 20 students currently inquiring, and God willing should be registered. Our goal is to get to 25 students for a pilot program. We've been approved by MASA to be a MASA Israel gap provider. And the only thing that could potentially stop us is our friend Corona. But we're staying positive and optimistic.
Thank you, Leor. The next question actually carries on with that. Can you say a few words as the next semester? Any update? I mean, students are planning to go.
Yeah, let me just tell you with a lot of excitement. I don't know where I have this excitement from. It's 4 a.m. here, but let me just tell you that this fall semester is the largest one we've had in history. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Okay. Now you have to understand something. We provide multiple sessions, right? So in a semester, when I say a fall semester, that's our HSI core studies, right? Those are the students that we hand select and pick and recruit who come to us for all their academic studies and Israel experiences. That does not include all of our partnerships, all of our day school and community partners. So I'm talking only about our semester, our fall semester 4-month program. We have over close to 65 students already registered and growing. Last year, fall semester, we were at 57. So God willing, we're ready to go. Let me just also share with you that our faculty, our deans, have been working around the clock over the last couple of months since the Ides of March, and have been preparing campus, have been renewing and upgrading our campus policy, our hygiene policy, our protocols, cameras, security cameras, everything is in place. All we need are the students. And God willing, they will come.
Wonderful. Thank you, Leor. Next, I'd like to bring up and ask her to say a few words. A friend of JNF, Alexander Muss High School in Israel, a friend of Israel in general. Ariel is here from the Samus Foundation, based out of Seattle, Washington. So you're unmuted. Please share with us how you ended up on this call and what Samus is doing right now.
Yes, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really excited to be representing the Samus Foundation. I'm the program officer for informal Jewish education, and Teen Israel Experiences falls within my grants portfolio. And Alexander Muss High School in Israel is definitely one of the most phenomenal programs that we fund, specifically the Impact Fellowship. And we are really honored to be giving $7,500 scholarships for up to 10 students from Washington State to attend Alexander Muss now in its, I believe we're in the 3rd year of our grant pilot program, and looking certainly to continue that relationship moving forward into phase 2 of our pilot. So just thank you so much for having me. I'm an avid believer in Israel Experiences, myself kind of a Israel Experience success story. I went on Birthright in college. Unfortunately, I did not know about Teen Israel Experiences, but I ended up making Aliyah, met my husband in Israel, got married in Israel, and now work on behalf of the Jewish community to ensure that other teens and young adults get the experience in Israel that they need and deserve.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. So, Rabbi Leor, Ron, Jack, the JNF professionals are always here and available to answer any questions you have, opportunities for you to get more involved. Like Jack said, really, it takes resources to do it. JNF has been there. We're going to be there today, tomorrow, yesterday. We're still building. We're still getting it done. We're still getting students there, so we need you to join us. Help us continue to do it. By the link, call us, get involved, send students, let people know more about this Muss magic. And so thank you again for joining us. And we'll send around everybody's contact information if you don't know how to reach Leor or any of the JNF professionals. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask them. Thanks, and we look forward to seeing you at one of our next future online events.
Everybody, thanks again for joining us for this session. We know that there's lots of Zoom meetings on your calendars these days. You're not getting to leave the camera, so we really do appreciate that time. And I really do hope that you will at least consider the opportunity that we have this year in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, and will continue helping support this phenomenal educational program. So with that, thank you for joining us this evening, and we will see you again soon. Have a good night.
Thank you all. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom from Israel. Be well.
Shabbat Shalom.
Bye, everybody.